authorities in charge of the environment, in terms of keeping the environment clean, sanitation. I wanted to visit them and see what was happening. I think it was almost days to World Environment Day. That was 2013. So I went to the Ministry of Environment. I went to GJ.
All right.
I went to GIJ. I went to Ministry of Health, and of course, the environment wasn't good. That one
it was what it was.
So for me, the environment, we live in the environment, but it must be something that we must be conscious of. But the consciousness for me is missing, because we wake up in the morning and we don't care about the environment, how it is. And the food we eat, our health, everything is dependent on the environment. Because, whatever we plant it in the environment. Whatever
garbage out.
Yes, we dig from the ground to eat. So whatever it is from the environment. The health, our health, the air we breathe, everything is in the environment. So it is something that must be, if you like, thought consciously. We mustn't wait for a day like this to talk about it. It must be an everyday thing. And one person who was very particular about hygiene and sanitation was the late Dr. Doris Date.
Yes.
It was when I presented the story for environment, and she said, no, this story is environment one, but it also has some elements of hygiene and sanitation. So GJ also introduced that award.
Okay.
So this is something that as a country we've not been very good at. Johnny, you travel and you enter the city, and you, especially in the West, speak and span. Clean and clear.
Charlie.
Beautiful.
You want to lie down.
You know what I mean? So why is it that when we come here, we have to put together a task force, clean your frontage, waste money, it doesn't even fly. Is it a culture of the people? I think so. At the end of the day, when we even are developing, do we think about waste disposal? Where to burn refuse, where to get rid of refuse? We don't put all those things in our planning. So at the end of the day, as a country, we even have a Ministry of Water and Sanitation. Must somebody come to your house,
right? With
we used to call them the town council,
tankers by this town council.
Look, you go out there and the children, you are traveling with a child. The child feels like attending to the call of nature. You park the car and it's not a urinal. The child would never, do what, you know what I mean. So at the end of the day, if the children are trained from the beginning to respect the environment, waste disposal is cultivated from when they are so young. Where we have to write on our walls, do not urinate here.
Yeah. Spot fine. 50,000.
That's what I'm saying. When you go to the West, children as young as 3, 4, 5, when they want to attend to the call of nature, and you park by the road,
and you
also one corner, they will get down, but they will not.
They will refuse
because it's not part of their
being trained.
That's the point.
Yeah.
But here, you write on your wall. If it's guy, you write Ashamo
only fools urinate here.
Those kind of things. And you see somebody standing in front of that writing
the inscription
and doing it because it has not been imbibed in the person. So respect for the environment must be imbibed in the people. We shouldn't wait for occasions to talk about it. So hopefully I'm thinking that as parents especially we'll take cognizance of some of these things and begin to train our children. You wake up in the morning, are they sweeping? We
used to sweep. Section red, section blue, section yellow, section green.
And we had communal labor.
Yes.
In the countryside. But now in the city, where are you going to call to come and do communal labor?
My dad used to wake us up around 4:30 every day to sweep the frontage of our.
And sweep inside the house, sweep outside.
We're always angry. I said, why are you? Because there are people who come and we said no. And later in life, we all realized that this was what he was trying to do, because you wake up in the morning, you go to the loo, you pick the papers, you go and burn them. This one is sweeping, and we rotate, so it doesn't become like as if it's William's job to always sweep the frontage of the house. You rotate.
I trained at GIG as an arts writer. But when I started work, I was so much interested in the environment and sanitation because of the training my father gave me at Bema Camp. Right. When we were growing up, as soon as you are 18, your 18th birthday, your father will call you and ask you, how many times do you sweep the house? He won't call you in front of the family. You alone. How many times do you sweep the house? You say 2 times. When? Morning and evening. Hey, soldier, then no, you know. Then you revise the notes. How many times?
You receive one.
He said 3 times. Morning, afternoon, evening. He said afternoon when you are in school, you come and sweep the house. My friend, think. So you sweep the house anytime the house is dirty. You know what I mean? You don't say you have number of times that you sweep the house. So if you sweep the house in the morning and something happens during the time that you are around and it's not evening, you won't sweep. You sweep anytime the house is dirty. Sometimes you go to offices and cleaners come in the morning and they've closed. They come and clean in the morning and by 9 o'clock they've closed. So the rest of the day you have to grapple with everything that happens in terms of sanitation and hygiene in the office. If you go to JFK, the last time I was there, look, as soon as you enter a washroom and you come out, a cleaner is entering.
It's following you in.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, here you put some poster on the wall and say... they
do it on the hourly basis.
No. See, because it must be part of us. And I'm saying this because when you talk about World Environment Day, it also borders on hygiene and sanitation.
It does. It had to a great extent.
Exactly. So
if I clean water and all of that.
You know, you can't be in an office situation where you don't provide water. That's where somebody will move from inside the office and go outside, and then, you know, more or less, you know, attend to the call of nature out there and mess up the environment. As we speak, recently there was a story about a assistant head teacher, who went to the bush to attend to the call of nature and met a snake. You know what I mean? So if as a country we still are going through all these. And that's just on the human side. Yeah. I mean, personal side. Look at the state we are in respect of Galamsey.
Okay.
People are going to prospect for gold,
right,
without thinking about the devastation to the environment. It's because they don't respect
it's
the
not
environment.
Being put into their minds. I mean, one of the videos I saw, one of the guys says, "Look, yes, say no.
Yes,
say
because
no."
At the end of the day, the survivor, he's thinking that he can survive in a bad environment.
But he has forgotten that when the trees are cut away, that's it.
You see?
Well, let's go on to the phone line. But first, we will get you some background on the International Environmental Day. The World Environmental Day urges all of us to protect our natural surroundings. There's stunning facts, as estimated 7 million people will die each year from causes, right, that we know, because the trees and all of that will come through. Related to air pollution, with the majority occurring in the Asian Pacific region. This day, which falls on June 5, encourages worldwide activism. This means also that everything from littering to climate change, World Environmental Day is both a global celebration and a platform for public outreach. China, which now owns half of the world's electric vehicles and 99% of the world's electric buses, hosted the 2019 event. The country has demonstrated tremendous leadership in tackling air pollution domestically. Said acting head of the UN Environment, Joyce Msuya. It can now help spur the world to greater action. The UN first established the World Environment Day in 1972. Joining us on the phone line is Nana Aseyal Dakwa. He's a convener for the Green Republic Project, and he's passionate about planting trees. He says he wants to plant 20 million trees by 2028. Nana, good morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, Johnny, and thank you for having me. Happy World Environment Day.
And thank you. I understand that today is also your birthday, so happy birthday to you.
Thank you, my brother. And it speaks volumes of, sometimes I try to understand myself, to, understand why, I get driven by, the sound environment and all that, and the passion that comes with it. And I know why, because I was born on World Environment Day.
Now, you tell me, what does this day mean to you and those you work with at Green Republic Project?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to all our listeners. Today means the world to me personally. It's a great day, and it's in the right direction for the United Nations, the world body, to set out a day for us all to, talk about the environment and to, take a break from all we do and look back at what we're doing to our immediate environment. So it's a very, very important day in the lives of humanity, and it's a day that we need to reflect. We need to pause and reflect. I say it's a very important day because, the current generation that we have owe it as a moral obligation to generations unborn, to bequeath a sound and healthy, planet to them. And so we need to really take time today to soberly reflect on the kind of injuries, the kind of violence that we humans are perpetrating against our immediate environment and nature as a whole. We need to do that reflection today so that we can change our attitudes, so that we can change some of our ways in order for us to be able to reconcile with nature, and we move on and live, cohabit peacefully upon the face of this earth.
Now, again, in Ghana, what should be our focus today as we mark this day or celebrate this day?
Yeah, I think the focus should be generally on the environment as the day captures, but we're looking at separate and different, areas of the environment. The theme for this year, for instance, is about plastics, and how we've inundated, the environment with plastic. Today, the sea is full of plastic, and we can even have fishes in there, and on the planet, on the earth itself, the bare grounds, we have plastics everywhere, so it's a day that we really, really need to pause as a people, because we're going ahead of ourselves to destroy the very earth that contains us. And so we need to reflect deeply and try to turn a new leaf for us to be able to live peacefully and happily upon the face of this earth.
You are on record to have said that you want to plant 20 million trees by 2028. That's too big a vision, is it not?
Yeah, it's big, but it's doable. We of the Green Republic set that target, to challenge ourselves to be able to contribute to global efforts at overcoming the climate crisis and the general environmental challenges that we find ourselves in as a people. And that is why in 2017, 2018, 2019, we embarked on this project and even went further to encourage the state, to come up with this Green Ghana Day, which was a product that came from the Green Republic project to the state. We actually believe that our 20 million target was something that was going to be a challenge for us to be able to realize because of, logistical challenges, and also the fact that we are a small organization that does not have the necessary funding. And so to be able to accelerate the pace and to be able to reforest our country at a very faster rate than we as an organization could do, we proposed the National Tree Planting, which became Green Ghana Day, so that we can accelerate and be able to recover our forest belts and our green zones, to be able to breathe quality air as a people and to do the things that we need to do as a nation to push forward. So, that is what the vision is. And so even though we are not in 2028, and even though we have not directly planted the 20 million trees, we can confidently say that we've already exceeded the 20 million, because last year we were made to understand that 20 million trees were planted. The first year, 5 million trees were planted.
Right.
We can confidently say that we have contributed to that, because we also helped in creating this particular novelty that the country is currently benefiting from.
From your own corner, how many trees has Green Republic supervised in planting, and where? In Ghana or beyond Ghana? Tell us.
Yeah, currently we've done 56,000 trees, and only Saturday, this past Saturday, currently I'm speaking to you from Mori in the central region, where Saturday we did 1,500 trees, and this morning we'll be adding up some 300 trees before we set off to Accra. So the 1,500 added to the 56,000, and then the 300 that we'll be doing, we're going forward, getting to 58,000 thereabout. And we're definitely going to cut the 100,000 mark this particular year. By September, we should be able to hit the 100,000 mark. We are very determined, and we're using this platform to call on all Ghanaians, 9th June, I think, will be the Green Ghana Day. We are humbly calling on all Ghanaians to join forces with the state, even as the state leads, in the planting of trees. I heard this year there will be 5 million trees planted. Excuse me. Let's all set out there and plant a tree. Do it for yourself. Do it for your children. Do it for your children's children. It is not just the state leading it. We owe it to ourselves as a duty and also as a moral obligation to generations unborn. Let's be mindful and reflect about where our kids will live. Currently, as we speak, the World Meteorological Organization came out with a report that 2023 to 2027 is going to be the hottest years in the history of the world. And already we can already attest to the fact that these days the kind of heat that we experience is not the ones that we were used to. And so that should even give us a clue as to the kind of environment, the space that our children will live in. So we should not only be interested as parents in stashing monies in the banks and giving properties to our kids and all that. Let us also invest in the environment to ensure that whatever we leave for them, they would have a sound, healthy environment to enjoy and to also bequeath a healthy, environment to the next generation.
And we'll come to the essence of planting trees, but each time I asked a question about seedlings distribution and the trees that were actually planted and those that survived, there's always the controversy because we're interested in the statistics most of the time. We say 20 million, we say 5 million, we say 7 million. But then, in effect, not every tree that is planted survives, and those that survive need to be reported upon. What do you say about this controversy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a controversy that is in the right direction. I mean, sometimes conflict comes about, and depending on how we deal with that conflict, it makes a relationship stronger or weaker. And so I think that anybody who calls for proper planning and execution of the Green Ghana, I've made no mistake at all, because, I mean, we're all told in the news that some, thousands of seedlings were dumped on some refuse dump somewhere. Yes. And also because of the nature of the distribution of seedlings, it does not come mainly to organizations like the Green Republic and other non-governmental organizations. It also goes to individuals. They set up at the mall, sometimes by the roadside, and give seedlings to people. Yes, you've given the seedlings out to people, but how can you guarantee that those seedlings have been actually planted and taken care of? And so at the end of the day, on paper, we would say we've planted 20 million trees, but there is no way we can check and actually, come to that firm conclusion that we've planted 20 million trees. So the concept is fabulous, is great. We need to take our time to make the implementation, more sustainable. And so for us, like the Green Republic project, what we were looking at is where, let's say, district by district, region by region, a certain space will be created and provided by the traditional authorities in those areas, because lands in Ghana belong to the chiefs as the custodians of land. And so we're going to look at a way where the Ministry of Chieftaincy, the Ministry of Environment, and then the EPA and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources will work closely together so that we can have spaces, green buffer zones in every district on this day. For instance, so let's say you take District 1, there's land available for the district to do their Green Ghana forest there. And so you have, let's say, 500,000 tree plantation in one space, multiplied by the number of districts we have. Then that can be a tangible way of measuring, how many trees have been planted.
Right.
And because if anybody has a challenge, they can be pointed to that go to this district, you go to this particular place, and we have X number of trees standing there. Somebody in USA, somebody in Alaska, somebody in Korea or Japan, through Google Maps, can easily locate those plantations. Right. And then the controversy about numbers planted will be done away with. And it can also be an avenue for creating employment, because if you have such large plantations, around the country, then you need young people to work in there to maintain and care for the trees that have been planted, because tree care is extremely important when it comes to, all these things we're doing about afforestation, and fighting climate change. Because if we only plant and do not have a clear-cut plan of caring for the trees, which comes with a budget in itself, then we'll be doing ourselves a great disservice. We can tout numbers that we have planted and beat our chest to it, but at the end of the day, in reality, we might not be nowhere near the seedlings that we gave out thinking have been planted.
Well, let's hold your horses there. Let's bring on the Honorable Emmanuel Mafo. He's the MP for Chrome constituency in the Ashanti region. He's also the chairman of the Select Committee of Environment in Parliament. Honorable, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Great. Today is World Environment Day. How is Parliament looking at this day, and what exactly will be the points for marking it?
Well, good morning to your listeners again. And I listened briefly to the contribution by the gentleman who was speaking. And to a very large extent, I can associate myself with the thoughts that he has expressed on your show, especially in regards to the creation of green belts or green zones within districts that we can focus our tree planting activities on, and then maybe create green spaces within our districts for recreational purposes, apart from the ecosystem services that such plantations will provide. But having said that, let me say that Parliament is in recess. Parliament is we are reopening tomorrow, and so I'm sure when we get to Parliament, statements will be made, and then MPs will express our thoughts on the state of our environment. In 2023, the theme is ecosystem restoration, and we are emphasizing the need to manage plastic pollution. If you look at this country and across the globe, by 2050, there will be some 20 billion tons of plastic in our landfills and in our oceans. And certainly that is going to have a serious effect on the aquatic life, life of fishes and other living things within our river and ocean bodies. It is going to create serious environmental infrastructural problems, because most of our gutters and our drains will be choked with plastic. Surface waters in our cities will be, as it were, will be choked with plastics. And everywhere you go, even in Ghana here, you will see that the use of plastics,
right,
particularly for selling this light plastics, have filtered. It's creating a lot of sanitation problems for us. And so we need to have a decisive policy on the use of plastic.
What's preventing us from banning plastics? Because we said some time ago that we're going to follow the Rwandan example in Kigali. Then we had conversations about recycling, because we know that just about 10% of all the plastic is what we recycle. And then the conversation also about the manufacturers came into the question, because they said they would lose businesses and all of that. But I think that summarily we agreed on 20 microns or so of plastic to be banned, the black poly bags and things you're talking about. But really, what is preventing us from going ahead to ban plastics?
I think that the executive is engaged in an effort. There's an African-wide initiative to deal with plastic pollution, and one of the strategies will be to pass legislations to ban single-use plastics or restrict highly the use of single-use plastics. And that's probably the executive. Ghana government is involved in that. I know the Ministry of Environment is involved in that. But if that is delaying, I don't think that anything bans us from taking our own internal national initiatives to do that. So what some of us in Parliament have been thinking about is to sponsor a private member's bill to tackle the issue of plastic. In fact, plastic, noise, and air pollution are three issues that we want to combine and tackle within that private members bill. But we have also been waiting for the EPA, because the Environmental Protection Agency is bringing an amendment to its act to Parliament this sitting. And my understanding is that they are trying to integrate issues of climate change legislation into their proposal. And so probably in order not to scatter the efforts, we may have to wait and see the content. In fact, in about 2 weeks, I've convened a meeting on that particular proposal, because we want to see the content of that and see whether it addresses the issue of plastic pollution, it addresses the issue of noise, and then also air pollution, because we believe that everybody has the right to clean air.
Honorable, do we have the time to wait for the legislation? I mean, you're asking for people to take their destinies into their own hands, but we all know the challenges with our waste management in this country, where you can decide to segregate your waste at home, but when the waste collectors come, they jam everything together. So it has to take a certain strong legislation and policy. Can we wait for that long?
Oh, well, I don't think that it will keep that long. I mean, you know the way lawmaking is, depending on the urgency of it, depending on the whipping behind it, and the strong advocacy that is behind it in Parliament. Parliament, we pass the legislation that we submit, and then within a day we pass it under a certificate of urgency. So if we are willing, then we can achieve that legislation. But what I am saying is that there is a number of calls for us to pass many environment-related legislation, and I'm saying that in order not to scatter the effort, what we could do as a strategy is to bring those critical areas like plastic pollution, banning the use of single-use plastic, and then noise and air pollution together, and then pass one legislation to comprehensively deal with that.
Okay.
And that is what I'm sure the media will be invited to the meeting in about 2 weeks' time that I'm convening in Parliament.
Okay. All right.
To have a discussion on that.
I see. Honorable, I'll ask you a question, and maybe Nana can also have a bite on it. So Nana Yao and his team at Green Republic are planting trees. There are many other organizations that are also planting trees. The government itself is planting trees with state resources. Yet we know that all our forest reserves are being mined and destroyed by Galamsey. Is that not one step forward, two steps backwards, or as I like to call it, Ajana 1, Ajana 2?
Certainly it is. I mean, in resource management, what people have called is what we call the net gain. So the idea, so it's an argument, it's a long time argument between preservation and conservation, the concept of preservation and conservation. And when the debate about forest management came up in the 70s, 80s, we seem to have come to an agreement that forest management should not necessarily mean forest preservation. And so, yes, we can make use of forests, we can exploit forests, but at the same time, we must make sure that the regenerative capacity of those forests are not adversely affected, and that we are planting more trees to compensate for the loss through logging and things like that.
Okay.
So it is, at the end of the day, it is the net gain. That is the empirical question that we have to ask. That what is the net gain of forest use? So all the trees we are taking out and the exploitation from galamsey and so on and so forth, and those that we are planting, how does the calculation, works?
But it's showing. Sorry, it's showing that we are planting more trees and we are cutting down even more, to the extent that deforestation is
gain,
right.
So we are making a net loss.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
and if we are making a net loss, then we are not sustainably managing our forests. And so I would expect that. And I'll call upon, in this particular case, I'll call upon the Forestry Research Institute of Ghana to help us with data and policy briefs on the state of our forests in Ghana, so that the conversation can be based on real empirical data. Then we can all speak to it and say that and see what interventions must be brought in to make sure that we turn the equation from a minus to a plus.
One of the things that some have proposed, like Daraboso of Arocha, Ghana, Nanaya himself, is that key persons within the government have been mentioned. If you take a look at the Professor Frimpong Boateng report and many other reports that have come in, that there are key functionaries of the government who have been fingered in the galamsey and cutting down of trees and ruining our forests. But they have not been dealt with, nor have those issues been investigated. That in itself will create some level of apathy if you ask people to come out and plant trees or nurture those trees, because they see you to be the ones encouraging them to plant trees, yet you are the very ones destroying the trees to the detriment of all. What do you say to this conundrum?
Certainly, if it is established that there are people in leadership or people who are supposed to be high-level public figures involved in illegal mining to the extent of exploiting mineral resources within forests or nature reserves, then they have to be brought to book. Who will bring them to book? I think that at the end of the day, the executive has a responsibility to, and of course, Parliament also has a responsibility to. And so I would expect that probably the Committee on Lands and Natural Resources, Lands and Forestry, may convene a meeting, and then probably, I know that there are moves to get a parliamentary inquiry into the report. If that comes up, then Parliament probably will take over, and then get the investigation going on. I also understand that the president has asked the CID to also investigate it. I'm not sure whether that investigation has commenced, but I want to believe that it has commenced, and so we will see what the report says. But of course, civil society has a role to play to be able to put pressure on the state institutions and demand accountability on these issues. So whilst we in Parliament may commission a parliamentary inquiry into the matter, right. I think we must still rely on civil society to also sustain the pressure, so that we are all watchmen over our environment.
Honorable, did you say may or shall?
Which one is that?
For the parliamentary probe into the Galamsey issues, did you say may or
Yes,
shall?
I'm saying that. I'm using may because if the motion for that is not filed, then it means that you are not going to have that action taken.
Will you take
That's
that?
what I'm saying that I have heard.
Will you take the action? Sir, will you take the action as the boss or the chairman of the committee on environment in Parliament to do this on behalf of all Ghanaians?
I could do that in my personal capacity as an MP, but because it's going to be a committee kind of inquiry, the jurisdiction of or the oversight of mining and forestry lies with the Committee on Lands and Forestry.
Okay. Honorable, I thank you very much indeed for your time. That's MP for Fori Krom. He is also the chairman of the Select Committee in Parliament on Environment. We're grateful that you could join us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Nana, you take a bite on, you folks are planting trees, and then you hear that the trees are being cut down. Actually see that they're being cut down because of Galamsey. Certainly that will be disappointing for you, but tell me how you feel.
Yeah, it's very heartbreaking, but we need to be creative, and strategic in our thinking as a people to find a solution to the Galamsey menace, because it's one that is very, very disturbing and something that endangers the collective, and not only the areas where Galamsey mining is done. I mean, when you look at the color of our rivers today, and the kind of chemicals that have been spilled into them, it makes, life very uncomfortable, even if you live far away from where these things are being done. Because at the end of the day, we are interconnected in a way, and the water we drink comes from these sources. And so we need to have a very, sober reflection on things and appeal to the conscience of our people who are engaged in this. The worrying side is when, constantly and very frequently you hear the names of people, who are in high places also involved in it. That is the worrying aspect, because they are the ones who are supposed to lead the fight for the collective, the masses of the people to also, follow. And so it's a very dicey situation. We need to do something about this, and that is to create, jobs, so that the young people will have a certain alternative. Because sometimes people are left with no choice. They out there in the villages, and there's nothing to do. Young, energetic people, and they see, especially like foreigners, like the Chinese, mining in these areas, and they're sitting in their communities, owning the land, and not, having access to these resources becomes a challenge. So we really have a crisis on our hands as a nation. And as I said, we need to, be very, very creative and strategic in finding a way out of this situation, because as many people have already said, it's a national security crisis that we need to really take care of. Because people are deep there in the forest, with arms and all that. We hear reports of, forest guards, attacked, sometimes maimed and killed and all that. So we as a nation, we need to take that fight very, very seriously, and then use all resources at our disposal. If we have to, declare, like a state of emergency, for those areas, for the military to really handle the issue, we need to do that, because the more people are massed in those forests, I mean, people from neighboring countries where the system is not too stable, or finding their way into our forests, and they come there with ammunitions and all that. You never know what this thing will turn into. From the mining of gold, illegal mining of gold, it can become something else.
Right.
And so we need to tread cautiously as a people, and also, do not politicize, the fight, because whichever government comes in or is in, definitely you're going to have yourself, faced with this particular challenge. And so collectively, we need to, judge and find, a working solution to that crisis.
Nana, thank you very much indeed for your time. We're grateful that you could join us. That's Nana, I'll say Dakwa, the convener and lead of the team at Green Republic. We're grateful. And joining us now is Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu. He is the CEO of the Environmental Protection Agency. Doc, thank you so much indeed for talking to us. Good morning. Hello, good morning, Doctor.
I think that you called Dr. Mafu again, so probably you need to call.
Apologies, sorry, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay.
46 minutes after 8. We are planting trees.
So you better keep your neighborhood clean, my friend. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So you better keep your neighborhood clean, my friend. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So you better keep your neighborhood clean, my friend. Clean water, food hygiene and better sanitation will guarantee the healing of the nation. Good life is the cause for celebration. Helping people is our intention.
And you can always join us also on Twitter. Hashtag is 3FM Sunrise. Let's get to know what you make of World Environmental Day. And we will get into some more conversations about the forthcoming conversation on Asin North. Yeah, the Asin North by-election is taking center stage these days.
Wash your hands every time there is a need. Keep your mind and body clean. Immediate action is the best prevention.
3FM Sunrise. Start your day with Sunrise on 92.7 3FM.
Cleanliness is next to godliness. So you better keep your neighborhood clean, my friend. Clean water, food hygiene and better sanitation will guarantee the healing of the nation. Good life is the cause for celebration. Helping people is our intention. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So you better keep your neighborhood clean, my friend.
3FM Sunrise.
Next to godliness, so you better keep your neighborhood clean.
Start your day with Sunrise on 92.7 3FM.
Your life is your greatest wealth. Everybody must know this truth. Healthy people make a wealthy nation. Cleanliness is next to godliness, so you better keep your
Start your
neighborhood.
day with Sunrise.
48 minutes after 8 here on 3FM 92.7. We'll take a quick break. On return, we will get into some issues. The Electoral Commission has released a statement challenging and debunking what the NDC says is a plot by the Electoral Commission and the New Patriotic Party to illegally insert names of unqualified MPP parliamentary candidates for the Asin North voters register. We will get into all those details here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Beautiful song there by Rocky Dawuni and Samini. Oh, When we come back from the break also, I'll tell you about a man called Sixtus Don Ulo. When we return from the break. The way I told you about Black Rasta the other time, I'll tell you about this man. Your Excellency.
Our intention.